Hello there YouTube viewers, and welcome to another edition of Health Matters. Last week we spoke at length about the knee problems, but mainly the reasons why you have knee problems is because the muscles at the top of the thigh are weak and need strengthening. Please, if you do nothing else, use the knee problem video last week and the pelvic one this week, and that will actually help you a great deal in the quality of life. Okay? Keep practicing, keep doing those exercises so that you can bend your knees to be able to pick up things and protect your back. Alright? Moving on this week to the pelvis, I want to actually introduce you to someone in a moment. I'm going to show you the structure of the pelvis and teach you how to keep pelvic neutral. If you keep pelvic neutral, your body will stay in a line with gravity and you will be able to obtain that rule of 90 we were speaking about. Here's Gunther and here is the pelvis. In this pelvis we have this part here. This is what the pelvis consists of. Two of the vertebrae from the lumbar part of the body, the sacrum bone at the back, which we'll turn around and show you in a moment, and has to house all of the top body, has to sit in this part here. It has two big bony bits here and a cavity that everything sits into. So pregnant mums, this is where you will house your baby, and it sits quite nicely in here. Large tummy people will also have that, and all of the organs will sit in this cavity. So it has to be strong. So it needs to be kept in a line. Okay? If it's tilted out of alignment, the rest of the body will accommodate and put pressure where it's not supposed to be, namely the spine. Now, let's turn it round and I'll show you the back of the spine, okay? And the pelvis. There's the two pieces we were talking about, two parts of the lumbar vertebrae, the sacrum and these big bones here known as the ilium and ischium. Okay? Now, what we have to try and obtain is pelvic neutral. This tip of this bone here has to equal this tip of this bone here to be in a horizontal plane. If that's achieved, we have what we call pelvic neutral. How do we get that? Okay, let me show you. Our body is pelvic neutral here. There's my big bones, and here's the back bones. Alright? Now, in order for that to come so we've got a nice line going across, we have to make sure that those bones are equal. So we don't want an anterior tilt or a posterior tilt. We need pelvic neutral. Now, can you see by having pelvic neutral that the body would be completely in line? Right? Most people will stand anteriorly tilted. You can see you'd have a heavy belly, okay, around here. If it's big, it pulls even more on the back. So, tip yourself back into pelvic neutral, and it tightens up this panel here and it strengthens the upper part of the knee. Let me move back and I'll show you. Okay. Pelvic neutral. Anterior tilt, posterior tilt. Pelvic neutral. You can see it's in a line. Okay, I'll do it from the back. Posterior, anterior tilt, posterior tilt, pelvic neutral. And again from the front. 1, 2, and 3. Now, what happens if you have an anterior tilt here? You are going to crush these vertebrae here. This is the vertebrae here with discs in between, and in between each of the spaces in the disc is nerves. The discs themselves act as shock absorbers for you.
and they're spaced quite nicely in pelvic neutral. If you anteriorly tilt, you will crush those vertebrae and they will press on nerves, irritating the muscles either side and making them go into spasm. Tight, hard muscles. They do that as a protection for the spine. To maintain them so that they have freedom and movement and you can actually move your pelvis, you need to keep in pelvic neutral to protect. How do we do this? In standing, I've just shown you. You should be able to mobilise the lower part without bending your knees or moving the top half. The same thing here. I'm not bending my forward, I'm not bending back, and I'm not bending my knees. Okay? Just my body. Keep it in pelvic neutral. That's what we're after. It keeps the spine straight. Takes the pressure off this bit here. Now the majority of us sit on a chair and tuck our feet underneath and we're on a computer like that, leaning and crushing this part here. What I want you to do is find this part of you, this bony bit here. That's what I want you to do. Okay? So, sit on a chair, feet flat on the floor pointing forward, knees 90 degrees to the hips, and rock forward onto your pelvis, crushing the spine. Come back again, find those bony bits that you're sitting on, and then push right the way back into the chair. Lift up onto the bony bits and go forward. Onto the bony bits and go back. And then stop on those bony bits. That is pelvic neutral. That's where you should feel comfortable, that's where you should feel at ease, and everything is then in a line with gravity when you're sitting. If you come out of pelvic neutral, you will be hurting your spine and creating a problem, real pressure. Come back to pelvic neutral by finding that bony bit that's there and sit and rest. Whatever you do, please don't ever buy one of those chairs that says that you can sit and it's a postural chair where it puts your feet underneath, because what you're doing is exactly that. You're tipping your pelvis and crushing your lower spine. They are a hazard to your health, positively. What you need to do is to be able to sit in pelvic neutral in whatever seat you are, whether it be a cinema, the theatre, at your office desk, at your table, in the dining room, or in the lounge. You need to be able to sit comfortably and in pelvic neutral. Remember the chairs that I showed you? Justin sat down and I purposefully said these weren't pelvic neutral, because this is pelvic neutral, that is posteriorly, and that of course would be anteriorly. So pelvic neutral, and can you see my spine is straight? Posterior, neutral, and anterior. Practice. You might need to get a little bit of massage at the low back to loosen up some of those crushed tissues, but just keep trying. Okay, it is vital. If you remember nothing else, remember this week's pelvic and last week's knee problem. Till we meet again, keep practicing, strengthening, you'll get there. Take care.